Сьогодні ж генерал Сирський доповідав щодо продовження нашого руху.
For more on this, let's go across to Glenn Ignazio, military expert, retired Air Force Special Operations Commander. Glenn, good evening and thanks for your time. Great to see you again.
Great to see you, Akshay.
So what Ukraine has pulled off is very bold and taken the world by surprise. Russia, as we understand, is scrambling to send Ukrainian forces out of its territory. What, in your view, is going to be the outcome of all of this?
Well, it's definitely eye-opening for many. So in the northern area where they actually went into, there was a lot of conscripts, so not very well-trained Russian forces, and they moved very quickly, and they've gotten a lot of ground. Now, the interesting part here is one of those tactics was to both have ground to be able to negotiate, which Putin won't do while you're on Russian territory, or to also pull some of the forces, the Russian forces, that are pretty formidable to the south, at least that are keeping Ukrainians in check as well. They're hoping they would roll north, and that hasn't happened. So it's going to be interesting as far as how this plays out. But the more territory Ukraine has, the more it puts Putin and Russia back on their heels. This cannot be well for Putin, just propaganda-wise and publicly within Russia itself, because they now see, without the propaganda machine, that things are not going well in Ukraine. So it's definitely something that we're going to have to watch and see how it goes forward.
We know that Vladimir Putin has called this effort by Ukraine as a provocation and a terrorist attack of sorts. But you really believe that this incursion will give Ukraine a better bargaining chip in the future?
I don't think it will. It is a interesting situation right now that is, again, put Putin on his heels. He doesn't really have the most trained forces that could actually push from, say, Moscow out. Most of those forces around Moscow are for defensive nature. But here's the thing that's interesting is about 100 plus or more soldiers came back from Iran, including about 1,000 or more missiles from Iran. So it'll be concerning if he launches against Ukraine rather aggressively. The problem Ukraine has is as they occupy this, they may win those battles, but the thing that really holds ground is their logistics train. That is their supplies, beans, and bullets, as we may mention. That has to be sustained. So the further that they get and a larger amount of territory they take, that's going to impact Ukraine into a negative way because they won't be able to support the forces down south and also their incursion into Russia. So it's a complicated situation.
It sure is. And I want you to throw some more light. You did speak of it, but in greater detail, if we can discuss what happens to the actual war in the south, where Russia still holds huge swaths of land in Ukraine, Donetsk, Luhansk, etc. Because Russia was, or maybe Ukraine was perhaps hoping there will be a diversion of troops, but the war in the south still continues with Russia, it seems, very gradually taking on more ground.
Yeah, you're right. It's one of these hard situations where the border down south, where a lot of the battles have been and have consistently been for the last 2 years, have really gone back and forth very, very little. So it's almost like those grounds have been held. But yes, Russia has taken a lot of territory from Ukraine. So the idea was hopefully those troops would come north, but we haven't seen that. But here's something that's interesting is as you see that, you see an increasing amount of missile attacks in Kyiv and other places. And in fact, which is against international law, as Ukraine went into Russia, Putin has some of his soldiers actually light fires and so forth around the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant.
Right.
Nuclear power plants are supposed to be off limits. So he is playing a game and he's really looking at some extreme ways to possibly get back. The idea that he hasn't done something so quickly actually raises concern of what is he going to do? And the uncertainty continues as we wait and we haven't seen a big response yet.
All right, we'll leave it at that for now. Glenn Ignazio, appreciate your time and expertise as always. Glenn, thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Great to see you, Akshay. Take care.